All right, we're starting. Okay. So, back again on a new track.
Yep, season 2 continues,
Despite
the protests.
Yeah. We're literally right now we're inside. We're sitting at my kitchen table, and you can look right out my window, and right outside, Ben will confirm this. You can see just lines of people, signs. This must end. Please stop.
Yeah.
We thought you had quit.
Why? And now you haven't.
Did you bring it back?
Why did you bring it back? What's the point?
Yeah. So, anyway, what is it that we brought back, Ben?
Well, it's this it's this little thing we do called Obscurigami.
Obscurigami.
It was Obscurigami,
but then
in the first season, but
some sort of time. That's kind of related to what we're going to be talking about today.
Ditties, obscure ditties.
Well, strange time.
Obscure times,
universes crossing, and that sort of thing.
Oh man.
Well, I mean,
I can't wait.
Oversell it.
This is a show where we talk about the pointlessly educational.
Yeah.
It's an audio journal of the obscure.
This particular episode is going to weigh heavily on the pointless side. But
well, I'm thinking we should drop the educational anyway.
Right.
Cuz it's only barely educational. Barely.
Well, you're going to learn some things. It's just what you're going to learn is not going to be useful in any way. So, anyway, I'm Thomas.
And I'm not Thomas.
That would be Ben. And this is the Obscurigami podcast. And so, to get to this topic, I'm going to kind of like pull back the curtain to kind of just weave a story of how I got to this topic. Anyway, I wanted to do an episode on parapsychology, because I had certain aspects of parapsychology that are kind of obscure. It's an interesting topic, but in delving into it, it ended up being much broader and much deeper of a topic than I had anticipated.
Right. That's like a whole pseudoscience to itself.
Yes. Yeah. So we might return to aspects of parapsychology at some point in the future.
Oh my gosh, I hope so.
I began researching parts of parapsychology. In the process, stumbled across, I was in the Wikipedia, I clicked on pseudosciences, stumbled across a list of pseudosciences on Wikipedia.
It's a gold mine.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great list. And then I drilled down even a level further. I don't remember what the actual name of the web page or Wikipedia page was that brought me to it, but it was like a level below pseudosciences to just like pseudoscientific ideas that gained some level of notoriety, but have like really no scientific claim.
They're really just pseudo.
Right, yeah.
The science part
is
questionable.
Yes. Well, beyond questionable. So anyway, I found this.
There's questionable that's way up here.
And then this is down here. So I found this Wikipedia list behind the Wikipedia list of pseudosciences. And that led me to this one glorious website / theory called the Timecube theory.
The Timecube
theory. And Timecube was a personal web page operated by a man named Dr. Otis Eugene Ray. And this website was founded in 1997. And it was Dr. Gene Ray's self-publishing outlet for a theory of everything that he called the Timecube. And it's quite the thing to behold. I don't know if you can... So this website went up in 1997, and it lasted for quite some time until Dr. Ray died in 2015 at age 87. And eventually the Timecube website expired, but people still host it to this day for posterity. But if you go to the Timecube website, and one place you can go to is ti.mcue.be, so it's just Timecube, but with a dot after the TI and before the BE. Right. There's a mirror of the Timecube website as it appears back in the day.
So was this guy, you say he's a doctor, was he like a medical doctor, or do we know?
I don't have information about the actual nature of his doctorate, but he is the wisest man on earth.
Really?
As the Timecube website indicates.
Dang, that's,
so,
I mean...
Yeah, so there's that.
You should get an honorary doctorate just for that.
Exactly.
Honorary doctorate of wisdom.
That may have been the situation. This is one of those things where I'm going to talk about it. There's aspects of Timecube that I will try to explain, and some things from the website that I've highlighted that are interesting tidbits, and I'll share some of those and describe the page. But it's one of those things you kind of have to see to just grasp. So I'm going to try to reorient my computer here so that Ben can see Timecube.
If you're not driving, then you should stop whatever you're doing. Or even if you are driving, pull over,
pull up the
Timecube website.
ti.mcue.be. So what this webpage looks like is basically like if you imagine a really long single page, it's actually 2 pages, of like a doctor. Have you ever seen Dr. Bronner's soap? So Dr. Bronner's soap is like this Castile soap, organic soap you can buy.
Right.
And there's like,
it's very little
covered
graphic
in like,
design,
like writing. And it just goes on and on about the one, the singularity, the all one God, all people, all one. It's a very interesting, if you're ever at like, or it's usually in the organic-y section at like a Kroger or Target or something, but you can see these bottles are like blue or whatever. Check it out sometime because it's quite the thing to behold. Yeah. But anyway, if people out there know
what that
Dr.
looks
Bronner's
like.
soap, this website is similar to a Dr. Bronner's.
It's got a backdrop that looks sort of like graph paper.
Yes.
But it's distorted.
Yeah. And then there's just blocks of text in different colors. Some of it's underlined.
Some of it's bold.
There's not a whole lot of punctuation.
It's all Times New Roman font.
And within this, we start to gather clues about the Timecube, the theory of the Timecube, and some of the issues that Jean Ray was particularly concerned with. So it starts off in 1884. Meridian Time personnel met in Washington to change Earth time. First words said was that only one day could be used on Earth to not change the one-day Bible. So they...
Before we continue...
Sure.
I have a few questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who are the Meridian Time personnel? And what does the one-day Bible mean?
Well, so as we'll get to, and you'll
start to see... Is that going to be explained, or is that just stuff that I need to know?
Well, there's the evil oneness. So the evil oneness is the idea that there is only one day on Earth in a 24-hour rotation of the Earth, that there's only one day. That is an evil concept. With that comes the idea that the Bible is evil because it supports the idea of a one single day.
Okay. I noticed he didn't capitalize it.
Right.
So definitely not a holy book in the mind.
Well,
of the
and
author.
you'll notice that he points out no man on earth has no belly button. It proves every believer on earth is a liar. So Christianity decimated right there.
Because of the absence.
There's nobody, everyone's always had a belly button. There's nobody who doesn't have a belly button.
Why? But why would there be?
Well, we'll get to it. there's a lot more to cover. So
wow, they just drop you in at the deep end of this philosophy.
Yeah. It's quite a bit too.
We're in the first paragraph, and I'm already
So far the core ideas that are here in the Timecube that we need to try to sort out are that there's the idea that there's only one day is evil, and that was propagated in 1884 by a government conspiracy to claim that there is only one day in order not to contradict the Bible, to continue propagating the Bible and Christianity. And then the other idea that we start to see some indications of here, one God is only 1/4 of God. So there's an idea that things have polarity and only exist in polarity. So man and woman are the poles of each other. And if they were united, there would be nothing, because they exist as a -1 and a +1 of 0. So if you added them together, you'd have 0 and you'd have nothing.
Right.
And everything in the universe exists as a polarity of something else. Therefore, the idea that there is one single God is an evil aspect of the oneness.
Right. Got it.
And also the idea that there's only one day.
Got it. It's sort of like a dualism.
Right. But also, belly button logic works.
I see.
So there's a lot. I mean, we're not going to be able to cover all of this. There's
smokes.
a lot. It's a really long page. I mean, there's a lot here.
There's a lot going on.
And this is only one page. So here's a picture of Dr. Jean Grey, wisest human, depicted in image above. So there's a lot of animosity towards the
cubic harmonics can save humanity.
Right. Basically, all of education is a complete hoax, an evil hoax, made just to propagate the oneness, the one day idea. And he has this idea that so the Timecube is, there are 4 simultaneous days in each 24-hour rotation of the Earth. So there are 4 days within 1 day, the 4 corners of the cube, the Timecube.
Okay.
As you can see by this chart.
This handy chart.
Right. Earth has 4 days simultaneously each rotation. You, a oneer, you erroneously measure time from one corner. But if you measured time from all 4 corners, you would see that there were 4 days in the 1 day.
I don't understand how that works.
Well, you're here.
Right. I understand where I'm at. I don't understand the alternative.
It rotates. Well, there's some other charts, so maybe that'll help you understand a little.
I mean, is there?
Well, here's one that kind of illustrates. See, that there's the sphere of the Earth is within the corners of the cube, and then
this is heavy.
Yeah. Okay.
So is there? But the sun can only be on one part of the Earth at a time.
Right.
So is he saying like portions of the 24-hour period are a day unto themselves? Or is he saying that there's like 4 parallel universes?
That seems to be... I'm not sure. But there's a way he illustrates it later on in the document where it's like Jesus is he has this Socrates, Jesus, another character, and another character. 4 example people live on the Earth. And while one person is experiencing sunup, the other person is experiencing midday. Another person is experiencing sundown.
Sure.
Another person is experiencing sunset, sunup, sundown, midday, midnight. And
gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
All 4 of those things are happening simultaneously.
Yes.
And in one Earth rotation, they will all 4 experience an entire day. 4 days in one 24-hour rotation of the Earth.
Right.
Yeah. So why?
But to each of them, it would seem like they just had 1 day.
Right. But there are 4 because
there's 4 people.
Yeah, and also everything has to exist in a polarity. So let me pull up some.
This kind of makes sense.
My highlights from this document of some of the most interesting bits. I read through all of it last night, and it's quite the read. There's 2 pages. I don't know how many words it is, but it has to be.
It almost seems kind of stream
least.
Of consciousness, like very like a journal entry.
And then there's nice little inserts here, like this in red says, "Hey, got a death threat from the temporal phoenix last night, saying that the big old boys that make the world go round are going to wipe me off the Earth. They can't allow the Timecube principle to continue. So there's kind of like messages embedded within some of the other messaging. But there's a lot of
opposites create.
It's
not God.
Yeah, it's a very angry document. A lot of, you are educated, stupid, you are evil, you will ignore message and attack the messenger. There's this idea that we invented God just to continue to propagate our idea of a single day on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And here it says Wikipedia claims that the Timecube is non-science. Opposites create. Cubism, not group theory. Oh, this is where it gets particularly harsh. If ignorant of the almighty Timecube creation truth, you deserve to be killed.
Whoa.
So people who are ignorant of the Timecube truth should die. And there's more language further down about
apparently that's not immoral.
Your children, it's justified to save life on Earth for future generations because you don't believe in the Timecube.
Now, does this philosophy have followers? Santa and God debase women.
Yeah, there's some interesting anti-Santa. He gets into some anti-Santa. There's one section where he says Santa is vital to Christmas. No Santa equals no Christmas. Why credit the Santa lie with gifts that parents buy their children? It bribes the child mind to accept false Santa spirit and false God spirit deceit associated with it. So he's particularly concerned with Santa, educators, teachers.
I think my problem is I'm giving this too much of a hearing. Like, I'm trying to understand it, and it doesn't seem like there's...
It's really quite incoherent. And as it goes on, it only gets less coherent and more confusing. Here's one section. -1 times -1 equals +1 is wrong. It is academic stupidity and is evil. So he's kind of proposing also an alternate math that I guess supports his Timecube idea.
His opposites theory.
Yeah. He also says that he has invested 30 years of his life and over $250,000 researching nature's 4 simultaneous 24-hour days within a single rotation of Earth. Sadly, academia has never really acknowledged his, except in one case. There is some stuff on this page and also in the Wikipedia article about the page, and Ray spoke about the Timecube at MIT in January at a student-organized extracurricular event.
January of what year?
2002.
This was a student-organized thing?
Yes, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't officially sanctioned by the university, although Dr. Jean Ray would have us think that based on the Timecube page. It also gets a little bit racist-y towards the end, unfortunately. If you're still confused about what the theory exactly is, here's one segment that might clear some things up. Earth is composed of opposite hemispheres, which rotate in opposite directions, equal to a zero-value existence, plus and minus. As entity, the opposite hemispheres cancel out. Earth exists as 4 90-degree opposite corner quadrants, but not as a 360-degree circle. Earth is cubic opposites, nothing as circle.
It's not a round planet. It's 4 cubes.
4 corners, that form a cube, that rotate. But
see, this is complex because when I think of a cube, I think of the sides, and there's 6 sides to a cube.
Yeah.
But he's talking about corners.
He's focused on corners, but a cube has more than 4 corners.
Right. That's true. So he's thinking of it in terms of quarters, but he's calling it corners.
Right. I guess he means the interior corner. So if you had a cube made up of, if you were inside a cube, if you're in a room, you could look at 4 corners of the room.
Top to bottom.
No. It would be more than that. It's 8.
Right.
8
if you divided it into top and bottom.
Yeah.
But if you thought of top and bottom as one continuous corner, then there's only 4.
Yeah. So he claims that he has absolute proof of this, although where that is in the document, I was not able to find. He also had a wager. He was willing to wager all of $10,000 that he's right, which to me seemed low, given how obviously passionate he is about.
Considering that people who don't know about it deserve to die.
Right. Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, there's quite a lot there. Wrapping your head around it definitely is impossible, and
I definitely feel like I need to read it.
In a headache. It's an interesting read. Towards the end of the second page, I ran across something interesting that
he spoke at claims to have spoken at Georgia Tech about the Timecube discovery.
Oh yeah, so about your question, there was at least one follower, Richard Janczarski, also known online as Cubehead, was a self-professed disciple of Ray, who called himself the second wisest human. And he created a Timecube fan site, the Cubic Awareness Online, and had a forum. Ray denounced Janczarski, and Janczarski ended up committing suicide in February of 2008.
Whoa.
We don't know if that's necessarily related, but they had disagreements.
And you say Dr. Ray died in 2015?
2015, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there were at least, there was at least one follower out there that we know of, but we don't know how serious,
he was about it. I mean, clearly he committed suicide. So right. He was committed.
He was committed to something. Whether or not that was directly related, I don't know.
There's a documentary out there.
Yes, I didn't check that out, so I don't know if that's good or not. One of the pieces of proof that were in here that I thought was particularly compelling was a 1-day Earth equals a one-legged horse. A 4-day Earth equals a 4-legged horse.
That makes sense.
So you can see how ridiculous it would be to think of a 1-day Earth.
Right.
It would be just like having a one-legged horse.
I mean, that kind of proves it. So what does that say about... what does a 4-legged centipede look like? Maybe there's I
don't know.
Hundreds of days.
I don't know. Well, don't claim infinite days, though.
Okay. There's so many little gems.
Oh, yeah. It's you can't... Some people apparently wanted to claim that there were infinite days within 96 days, and he adamantly denounces that idea. So it's not infinite days within 96 hours, not 96 days. There's one bit that caught my eye where he talks about evil obscurantism, which is what he calls deliberately withholding cubic knowledge. So I thought we might have a part in that, because being the Obscurigami podcast.
Obscurists.
Right.
But we seek to illuminate the obscure.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our quest. Hence why we're talking about Timecube theory.
Yeah.
I'm kind of speechless. I don't know what to make of this. This is just,
I like this bit. NASA's moon landing was far less of an achievement than Timecube discovery, for I have cubed the Earth with 4 simultaneous corner days in one rotation of Earth. So
I'm still having a really hard time with what that means. And having a chart with 4 people who lived in separate centuries doesn't help.
So there's one particular chunk of text in green that I think kind of holds the key to this whole thing, that you might have figured this out on your own already, but let's see. Here it is. My wisdom so antiquates known knowledge that a psychiatrist examining my behavior, eccentric by his academic single-corner knowledge, knows no course other than to judge me schizophrenic. So his ideas were profound on the level that when examined by psychiatrists, the only option left to them, because obviously they couldn't abandon their single day, cubist or non-cubist, oneist idea of Earth. So the only recourse they were left with was to diagnose him with schizophrenia.
Right. In Christianity, there's an apologetics approach that I think C.S. Lewis came up with, where he talks about 3 different approaches to Jesus. Like Jesus either was lying about being the Son of God, or he was actually the Son of God, or he was crazy.
Right.
Those are the only 3
conceivable
options about Jesus. He was either lying, crazy, or actually who he claimed to be.
Yeah.
According to C.S. Lewis or whoever came up with that theory. And it sounds like Dr. Ray applies the same kind of principle to himself.
Right.
Like, either I'm right or you think I'm crazy, which just proves me even more right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is an incredible
it's quite the claim to make, but he does also claim that he is the wisest human.
I mean, his claims are staggering, and I'm prepared to give them a hearing, but I'm having a hard time intellectually. I guess because I've been indoctrinated with oneness my whole life.
Yeah.
I can't cube the
on
oneness.
And on about the proof, and I kept hoping to get to the
kind
proof.
of
definitive proof.
I'm still not even sure I understand the theory of how there's 4 days in one.
I don't think anybody quite does. It seems like it was fairly self-evident to him, and anyone to whom it wasn't self-evident when presented with the idea that is just your android mind that
they
has
were
been
just
programmed by the lying education. So this is Wikipedia's summary that illustrates the theme. When the sun shines on Earth, two major time points are created on opposite sides of Earth, known as midday and midnight. Where the two major time forces join, synergy creates two new minor time points we recognize as sunup and sundown. The four equidistant time points can be considered as time square imprinted upon the circle of Earth. In a single rotation of the Earth's sphere, each time corner point rotates through the other three corner time points, thus creating 16 corners, 96 hours, and four simultaneous 24-hour days within a single rotation of Earth, equated to a higher order of life Timecube. So that kind of, in a nutshell, I think is the Timecube theory in its simplest, most understandable,
most coherent
form. Wikipedia comments or writes about someone who wrote an article about him, noting the subtle little racist ideologies. And it's like, it starts out fairly not innocent, well, innocent-ish. I mean, it's like, it starts out like a fairly innocent sort of conspiracy theory, like, the masses are being fooled by the government and education is lying to us. And then it gradually gets a little bit even darker, like we should be killing the people who ignore the cubist
who don't know the truth
ideas, and then it gets worse and scarier from there. So
I mean, it is actually terrifying that someone who sounds like his biggest supporter, at least as far as we can see from the record that we have, was actually someone that he denounced,
right,
and led to a death.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
an interest, and the ability for someone who, presumably, according to his psychiatrist, someone who presumably has schizophrenia is able to create a website documenting their ideas, and then can actually gain followers from that.
Right.
To what degree of seriousness those followers are, we won't know, but it reminds me a lot of, and this won't make sense to people who aren't from where Ben and I live, but there's that house along 5th Street with the signs out and the scrawlings on it about the end times and all the just sort of paranoid.
But it's not your usual "the world is ending" kind of stuff. It's very inconsistent.
Yeah, it has
other messages about how, that are political or racial or.
This reminded me a lot of that, and that has that same sort of cadence and incoherence and non sequitur sort of logic.
Yeah.
And then it also just keeps growing and expanding in this way that seems to have no logic and is very repetitive, and and I don't know anything about that person who puts up those signs.
If you're listening, send us an email.
Yeah, send us an email. We'd love
info@obscurigami.com. We'd love to talk about your signs.
I've always wanted to know more about that situation. But yeah, Timecube.
Yeah, so it reminds me of the whole Heaven's Gate cult. They're not as obscure because they kind of made the national news, but they, around the late 90s, they had a website that drew a lot of people towards them, and they ended up doing a mass suicide as a way of beaming up to the mothership that was passing by Earth with a comet or something like that. And I think stuff like this really contributes to people's fear of technology and fear of the internet, because here's this thing, like, he's saying very strong stuff, but it's very difficult to understand what he even means. And it's a little bit frightening.
Yeah.
Because it's attacking you for not understanding it, but it's very hard to understand.
And it does make me wonder, like, how many, so Timecube.com obviously picked up some traction somewhere and became like a known thing to a certain number of people, enough that there was a student body at MIT that like invited him to come speak. But what other Timecube.com style websites are out there where somebody's rambling into the void about their particular personal conspiracy theory that we just don't know about?
There was a great one I found one time that was guitar related. It was a guitar manufacturer who believed that guitars, electric guitars specifically, should not be painted or sealed in any way. That this like ruined guitars, and it was a big, the big guitar companies, Gibson and Fender, were, squashing true instrumentation by painting their guitars. And there's stuff out there that's just that's like this. I don't know if social media has kind of confined those things more, because
you don't have to like make Facebook, a website anymore.
Right. You just have to have a Facebook or a Twitter or something, and you can just ramble into the void, and it's less accessible because
those are kind of
those
silos.
People don't necessarily have a limited number of friends to get the information to. Yeah. Whereas it used to be, the internet was more, I don't know, the internet used to be different in how
almost everything used to be kind of public on the internet. The only things that were kind of contained,
it still is, but
in private, but like the default is less public. Like a lot of people, if they have something to say, they're going to go to like Facebook and say it on there, and it might, the reach it's going to get might be like, their 200 friends or whatever.
Well, almost by virtue of how we use the internet now.
Right.
Like how we go about finding information. Yeah. Like, remember pages and pages that were just links? Yeah. And they were sorted by topic, and I mean, it was almost like a library catalog. Yeah. Before like search engines got big, going through and finding information that way. So it was, I mean, there was a lot less content created, and we approached it differently.
So there's one bit here that I'll kind of close on this. One of the sections, he lists an email, and it seems to be the only section where he lists like some correspondence that he's received or something. It has the date, the email of the person who sent it, and it just reads, "Dear Mr. Ray, for a year now I have studied your Timecube truths, but have not been able to convince others of its reality," and then insults them in parentheses. "My mother is a teacher, and she said it was nutty and stupid. But guess what? I cornered her literally in the living room one evening and forced her to admit it." And then in all caps it says, "In order to get her teaching certificate, she had to sign an affidavit stating that she would uphold the Greenwich myth until its death." The Greenwich myth is the Greenwich time myth. "Until its death. I kid you not," with an expletive, "it has been revealed. American teachers are sworn to fight against the truth of Timecube." And then there's this nice little bit where it says, "Transfer interrupted," and then just a devout student of Timecube below that.
Wow.
The transfer interrupted part of that is my favorite, because I don't think email transfers can really actually be interrupted. An email either comes through in its entirety or not.
Right. I mean, I suppose it could be corrupted, but...
Right. But the transfer interrupted bit just particularly struck me as a nice little... They're having to be so covert with their communications that, maybe this person who dared to write into Mr. Ray was silenced just as she was writing the email.
Yeah, maybe so.
We'll never know. But
I wonder how cell phones fit into Timecube theory, if they would affect it in any way.
Yeah, I don't know.
Apparently Timecube theory will solve nuclear waste problems as well.
Oh yeah, that was another theme that comes up later on, is he's particularly concerned about the nuclear waste dump site in Nevada or wherever it is that the government buried some nuclear waste. Anyway, Timecube, you can go to ti.mecu.be if you dare.
And see for yourself.
It's
what
quite,
it means.
It's quite the thing.
I'm definitely going to spend some time on this website and see if I can ascertain the logic at play here.
I think the general consensus has been that there's not really a discernible, there's not really an actual logical idea that you can kind of reduce it into. Right. But it's certainly interesting to try to comprehend what it is he was getting at. Or even just to try to figure out what idea he started with that led to him believing this.
All this stuff.
Was it some misunderstanding he had in his mind about how time zones worked and that kind of thing, and then it just snowballed into this paranoid delusion? Or is it just all completely coherent? What do belly buttons have to do with it?
Right. I don't understand that connection.
But yeah,
it's very, very interesting.
So that's the Timecube theory.
Good find.
I feel like there's a whole world of personal websites out there that with particular ideas that could be interesting topics. I stumbled across one time where it was a guy who was devoted to the whole Dark Side of the Rainbow type thing, synchronizing Pink Floyd albums
Dark Side of the Moon
with movies.
Right.
So there's the famous one where you synchronize the Dark Side of the Moon with
The Wizard of Oz.
And this guy had dedicated what must have been hours to maintaining the site, listing all these different synchronizations between the movies, the different Pink Floyd albums, different movies. But the thing that was really crazy about it, or what was interesting about that website, is the guy who ran it held the belief that it was all intentional.
Right.
So there's people who think that the it's an album might just accidentally match up with certain parts of the movie. It happens, whatever. But this guy was convinced that Pink Floyd was intentionally making their albums in such a way so as to simultaneously synchronize with 20 different movies. Yeah. And he thought it was all intentionally being done by
Presumably they're still doing that in the albums that they come out with now.
The Force Awakens was the first film made as a reverse synchronization. So J.J. Abrams specifically made The Force Awakens to synchronize with the Dark Side of the Moon, and that's the first instance of it being done the other way. But all the other cases where they match up are a case of Pink Floyd specifically matching the album to the movie.
Wow.
So
good find. Good topic.
So there you go. All right, so that ends the incoherent portion of our...
Now, instead of being incoherent, we're going to be random.
A random Wikipedia article.
This is the segment of the show where Thomas and I mispronounce things for a few minutes. He's standing by the button.
And what do we got?
This is interesting since we were just talking about time zones.
And it's actually something from the future.
So it is.
This is the Wikipedia page for the solar eclipse of August 2nd, 2027.
If you're listening to this on August 2nd, 2027, congratulations, you've just proven Timecube theory to be correct.
There will be a total solar eclipse that will occur over much of the eastern hemisphere on August 2nd, 2027.
That's assuming that, the Earth doesn't implode or something like that.
Then, yes. It will begin it will commence over the eastern Atlantic and pass the Strait of Gibraltar between Spain and Morocco. And
there's a nice little GIF depicting the path
that it will take. It looks like it'll hit parts of Africa.
Yeah. I guess if you want to get a really good seat, North Africa is a good bet.
Yeah, North Africa looks like
So book those tickets now.
A great part of it. Yep. Definitely go check it out. Head to wikipedia.org/wiki/solar_eclipse_of_August_2nd _2017 for more information.
Is there anything in particular that makes this eclipse significant enough to have a Wikipedia article, or are there just a lot of Wikipedia articles for every...
I guess there maybe is one for every solar eclipse. Here it lists related eclipses.
Aren't they all somewhat related?
Each member in a semester series of solar eclipses repeats approximately every 177 days and 4 hours, a semester, at alternating nodes of the moon's orbit. So I guess they group different ones together depending on which parts of the orbit are causing them or whatever.
Makes sense.
This Solar Saros 136 repeats every 18 years and 11 days, containing 71 events. There you go.
Huh. So when was the last one of these? Does it say?
I don't know. Maybe the one that just happened here in America is a part of...
Is part of the same family?
Series. I don't know. I guess we could look into semester series. Oh, wow. This goes deep.
Woo. There's a theory that the science content of Wikipedia is extremely accurate because nobody's smart enough to tamper with it.
Right, yeah.
We're certainly not smart enough. But
definitely not.
If you want to know,
we're barely smart enough to read it.
I mean, it took us a really long time just to press record.
Yeah.
That's how lacking in intellect we are. We don't even understand Timecube theory, so... Or I guess Timecube fact.
Timecube fact, yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, our intelligence is limited.
To be fair, we were brainwashed by a oneist education system.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that,
That's true.
We didn't get a fair shake.
We should wake up and acknowledge the four corners.
The
four simultaneous days.
Our ignorance is no excuse. We deserve to die because of it. Because of our lack of knowledge, apparently.
Thankfully...
That's a really dark note to end on.
Thankfully, Dr. Gene never chose to act out on...
He never acted out on that.
What he perceived would have been
Scary.
Justified judgment.
If you have any theories or, hidden truths to share with us...
Maybe you have a time octangle...
An octagonal approach to time.
Theory.
You can always send us an email, info@obscurigami.com. You can call Thomas's personal cell phone at... Just kidding. Is there another way to reach us? I guess we don't really have...
That's about all we got.
That's all we got.
I haven't checked the email in a little while, so maybe we have some emails.
Should we do a live mailbag?
We'll check it between this episode and the next one.
It's like on Blue's Clues where they check the mail. Was that Blue's Clues that they...
Yeah, Blue's Clues.
They used to do the mail check.
Mail time.
That was always really exciting.
Yeah.
We should check the mail. Should I cut?